My home state of New South Wales in Australia proudly announced last week that we're going to have EV charging stations every 5 kilometres in metro areas and every 100 kilometres on highways. Of course, no sane person would invest their own money into such a venture, so it's the poor New South Wales taxpayers that have to foot the bill, as usual. But as we shall see in this video, the whole idea of mass public EV charging is fatally flawed and will never get even close to replacing the speed and convenience of fuel stations. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another one of my EV realist videos in which I seek to inject a note of sanity into the mad dash for net zero and EVs. So if you like this kind of content, it would be great to have you as a subscriber, and don't forget to enable all notifications so you never miss another video. So the article reads, charging stations for electric vehicles, EV, will be under 5 kilometres apart in metro New South Wales areas and under 100 kilometres apart on major roads and highways across the state under a new EV strategy. In order to achieve the target, the state government will open a third round of EV fast charging grants in early 2024. The grants will help businesses and organisations like councils and government corporations with the construction and operation of the fast and ultra-fast charging stations that can charge a vehicle in 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah, if you're lucky. The programme will spend $149 million of taxpayer money to install 104 new charging stations that contain between 4 and 15 ultra-fast charging bays. The stations will be installed over the next 18 to 24 months across highways and in regional and metro areas. This comes as the government is set to scrap the $3,000 electric vehicle purchase rebate from January the 1st onwards. So they're scrapping the rebate and putting all the money into charging infrastructure instead. It'll be very interesting to see what this actually does to EV sales, but that's a story for another video. The trouble with this kind of announcement is that it's just a token feel-good gesture. A few handy chargers around the place to cater for the wealthy evangelists who have swallowed the net zero Kool-Aid and have gone out and bought an EV. By the way, check out my video up here for reasons why you should never ever buy an EV. But the problem is that none of this is scalable. It cannot possibly cope with a fully electric fleet without massive upgrades to infrastructure and the grid. Imagine, for example, a small petrol station on a highway in a remote part of Australia. It has a couple of pumps and a shop, and every week a tanker will arrive and dump fuel into an underground tank. Now the station is stocked up for the week and anyone passing by can stop and fill up in a matter of minutes. But now imagine that the entire fleet is electric, as is the government's crazy plan for net zero. What does this fuel station do? There's a fundamental trade-off to be made between the capacity of the chargers in kilowatts and the length of time it takes to charge up a car. Even a single ultra-fast charger would require about 250 kilowatts, which is equivalent to about 30 average Australian homes. Who's going to pay for the infrastructure upgrade to supply that kind of power to that remote station? Okay, they think we'll just put in a modest 22 kilowatt charger instead, with correspondingly cheaper grid connection. But it would then charge customers' cars over 11 times slower than a 250 kilowatt charger. And that's just for one charger. What happens if a couple of cars pull up at the same time? One will have to wait, maybe hours on a 22 kilowatt charger, while the other guy charges. Nobody in their right mind wants to do that. Apart from prohibitively expensive battery storage systems, which themselves need electricity to keep functioning and to keep cool, there's no equivalent to the basic old underground tank which can supply multiple vehicles at once. You're constrained by the capacity of the connection to the grid. At the moment, most countries, including Australia, are in complete denial about the amount of upgrades to the infrastructure that would be required to support an entirely electric fleet, with some senior energy figures even ridiculing the issue. Mark England, recently appointed CEO of Ausgrid, thinks the problems can be, quotes, easily solved. I'm not a subscriber to the narrative that when all these EVs arrive and are plugged in that they will create problems for the grid, England said in one of the panel discussions held at the Fully Charged show held in Sydney over the weekend. There will be problems in some areas, but pricing signals, as we have learned at Genesis Energy in New Zealand, can change consumer behaviours when they charge. So we can solve a lot of stuff with pricing signals. England also says it is wrong to assume that just because a new load has been created with the arrival of electric vehicles, that the grid will have to be massively expanded to cope with the biggest anticipated demand. The simple answer is no, because you don't need to charge your EV every day, and you don't need to charge a car at 6 p.m. There are ways of distributing that demand and making sure you don't have to build the grid for the biggest moment of the biggest day. which is really odd because the UK is already estimating a massive upgrade to grid infrastructure, including gigawatts of new generation and miles of new transmission lines. A recent report highlights this, stating, "The cost to 2050 will comfortably exceed £3 trillion. A workforce comparable in size to the NHS, the National Health Service, will be required for 30 years, including a doubling of the present number of electrical engineers, and the bill of specialist materials is of a size that for the UK alone is comparable to the global annual production of many key minerals." There's a link in the description to this report if you're interested. But to think that Australia can avoid all this is just pure delusion. The reality is there's no getting round this trade-off. It's either lots of slow chargers, a few quick chargers, or massive grid upgrades. So that's just about it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Drop a comment down below, let me know what you think. If you have any tips or stories, you can hit me up on Instagram or by email. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye for now.